All right, Craig. Most people shop for beard oils, who's been using beard oils in the past, by the scent of the beard oil. How should they be searching for the best beard oil for themselves?
It's a big question, really, as most people know. But in the most simplest terms that I could give, I would use something we like to say around our lab, and that is science trumps sense and results matter most. What we mean by
science before scent.
Science before scent, the aroma, and the results are what matter most.
Makes sense to me.
It does. It really does. And I think most guys really want the results, and they want something to smell really well also. And so with our product...
So let me ask you about one specific product.
Right.
Okay, so one of the most popular products for Allergies is the Poseidon beard oil. So explain how the science is a little more important than the scent in this case.
Okay. Again, it's a loaded question, and we all know this, but the whole idea is when we started to develop our Poseidon formula, which is our #1 formula worldwide at this point, and we're in our second iteration now. We're on our 3X version. We developed this towards the end of 2015, and the whole idea was to give guys something that would provide components and scientific-based components through essential oil blends and the carrier blends that we've got that would actually perform on the beard and the skin at the follicle level, epidermis, and then be able to help stimulate beard growth. Okay. And so in order to do that, there was a certain formulation process that we had to undertake. But we also had to make it something that was pleasurable to wear. Okay? Because if there's certain things that can go a long ways, and if they're overused, certain pine scents, a little bit goes a long ways. Okay? And a lot of people walk around smelling like a Christmas tree all day, and they get headaches, and it just doesn't work for them. They just don't really like that. So we have to have something that's very, very poignant. It had to be very refreshing. It had to be something that you could see yourself wearing and being involved with all day long, because you're going to come in contact with other people most of the time,
and not smell like a Christmas tree.
And not smell like a Christmas tree. Right. And not have a headache.
True.
And so the idea was how do we do that to perform the beard growth cycle and the proprietary nature of what we're doing to stimulate hair growth? How would we do that at the maximum level, and yet also deliver an aroma that was pleasant and very poignant, very refreshing, and yet not overpower that as well?
So on the Poseidon, tell me a little bit more about the science and the scent then, just how those operate in this formula.
Sure. Certainly don't want to get into how our proprietary blending
too many secrets
works. It really is. That's that's the science-based part of it. But we looked into some of the studies, and there were really only a few that have ever been scientifically done and approved through certain universities that have actually shown components that have had a positive effect on hair growth, beard and for hair.
Okay.
And what we did is we took those and we synthesized those components, and we made them more potent, more powerful. We did reblending, and there was a process that we went through, in other words, in order to deliver that, what we call our growth factor. And in the case of the new Poseidon, we're on the 3X growth factor. This is the second iteration. And so in order to do that, we really wanted to maximize the science and the chemistry behind that, okay? So in order to deliver that growth factor properly to the skin and to the hair, then that required a combination of carrier oil component and the arrangement of those and how those were then blended and synthesized and then aged. Because a lot of people don't understand that when you start to blend oils, your carrier oils, your essential oils, okay? When you start to blend those, in some cases, it takes time for those to actually assimilate and blend together. Otherwise, it's almost like they'll suspend in nature. So when you look at a bottle, like through a glass of light, you'll see there's pure suspension. There's nothing settling. There's nothing floating, right? Oils mixed with oils just fine. But that doesn't mean that it's an assimilated product. It doesn't mean that it's fully blended so that every drop delivers maximum effectiveness, consistency of the product throughout the entire range of the product. So there's a time process in the blending. There is a mating the growth factor, which is a combination of different essential oils that we use and how we break those down and synthesize them, and then how we blend that with the carrier oils that we use, and then how we bring everything together and make it happen. And so the science is pretty complex, but what it does...
It's over my head.
Well,
that's why I trust you for this.
Yeah, you got to dip pretty hard into some of the alchemy and the chemistry in order to make these things happen. But
sure.
The fun part of it is that it's extremely effective. Now, we've talked about this before in a previous video with our trial sizes, and that is, if a person is coming to Poseidon for the first time, maybe they've used the trial and they go, you know what, I really like this, I want to jump on the full regiment and I want to get started and use this in my daily routine. So they go ahead and they buy a full bottle. They could very well be in a process, if they've been using beard oils before, they're going to be in a process where our product has to do something extra now, and that is strip out all the residue that's been left behind by...
Like a cleanse.
It has to cleanse them first. And the reason it is to do that, because obviously we all know that our hairs are very porous. Okay, so we have to affect a change at the epidermis, even down at the follicle level, right, in the skin, to help the hair get stimulated to grow and provide nutrition. But then we also have to keep things soft and conditioned and allow our bodies to use what we basically force into the hair itself. But if that hair is coated with jojoba or argan or some of these other types of components that are used like 90% in the beard oil industry today, we have to strip those out first.
Okay, so I see a lot of advertisements for beard oils, and those are actually promoted as important features. So explain to me why we've gone a different route than that, and ours are different, and how we believe ours is better because of that.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty obvious as a chemist or an alchemist or even a doctor, I suppose, if they were to look at it, you would be able to look at kind of the whole landscape of the beard oil business, the beard oil industry, we'll say, and you'll be able to look at component by component, and you'll start to see this trend. And this trend, if you know the science, points to the idea that very few people, if anybody, and there are some, but very few know what they're doing. They're just probably putting some stuff in a bottle, shaking it up, putting it on the market with a label and selling it. And then there's people out there that'll just buy it because they don't know.
And to be truthful, I mean, we've found many companies in China that are building these oils for a lot of people. And so I have a feeling, or a bad feeling, that some people don't even know what they're selling. They're just taking something from a factory in China, saying, hey, put my label on it, it's called beard oil, I'm going to sell it as beard oil.
Exactly.
And that worries me, and I feel like we are doing things way different than that, and people, would like to know that.
Yeah, it's critical. It's critical. Because we don't know, latest percentage I heard was even up to 85, almost 90%. 90% might be a stretch, but I've heard about 85% of the online retailers today are getting product from China that's basically labeled. So what these individuals are interested in is just the sales process.
Yep.
They're just it. I can't, that just kind of goes against the idea of the science part of the whole business. So if they're just interested in a sale, it really kind of doesn't matter to them what they put in a bottle. And then they say, hey, this is a growth oil, that's a growth oil. And technically they're not, okay? So most people need to be educated on that process, and we're trying to do that very well at legendsbeard.com through our science page, and hopefully these videos will help people understand the science part of it, right? Yeah. So yeah, there's this big misunderstanding in the industry about what really works, and it's just like a lot of hope and chance and guesswork, and that's another thing we say at our Legends Lab is that we don't guess, we test. Yep. And so if it doesn't pass muster, then it doesn't make it into one of our formulas.
One other thing that really caught my attention as super important and a big deal for some people, for a lot of people, is the nut allergy factor.
Right.
And how we've gone the route that we are avoiding the nut allergy oils, and where most of them do have those oils. And so explain a little bit about that better than I can.
There is a really quick overlook in the industry that we see. There's a very quick overlook of compounds that have what we call volatile organic proteins, okay? Or volatile proteins. Allergenic proteins is another way of looking at it.
Okay.
Now, 30 years ago, it didn't seem like many people had these nut allergies, these tree nut allergies, right? These peanut allergies. So it's really ratcheted up over the last couple, 3 decades.
Yeah.
And so we have to be very conscious of that scientifically, that we don't have a guy using pine nut, argan oil, which is a carrier oil, very popular in the industry, but it's a nut, and there's the potential for allergenic compounds to be in that oil. And for a person who's sensitive, it's scary.
So based on sensitivity as well, but
Right.
highly sensitive people could notice that.
Pine nuts, tree nuts, they all contain organic allergenic compounds that can have a negative influence on people. Now, the thing that we're afraid of most is that a lot of guys that have beards, we're concerned about their health and their safety. We're also concerned about the health and safety of their family, because they're kids. Because if the kid's up in dad's lap and he's touching the beard, what if his kids have
or
an
at
allergy?
work, and you got coworkers. I mean, there's
Exactly.
lots of scenarios.
It's something we take very, very serious, and so we don't use those compounds in any of our products. We find a different scientific way to use fully cold pressed organic compounds and oils in all of our products. There's other ways that we synthesize oils and use them in our products, but we're very mindful and very creative in the way that we go about delivering unique formulas without, running that or spending that gap with something that's potential safety factor for people.
So now, since we've gone so deep into the science side of things, and I know there's probably way
We
more
could
you
go
can
deeper.
go deeper, but let's talk about the scent now. So this is secondary, but it's still, some people are curious about the scent of the Poseidon.
Poseidon is very it's a very refreshing scent. It's mint based. We call it ice mint. It's our proprietary formula, ice mint. And it's a very refreshing scent that is something that is, I would consider it right at the perfect level of being an aroma that you could live with all day, but yet it wakes you up when you use it, type of thing. It's also something that people around you enjoy. It's not something that offends women. It's not something that offends other men. It's just something that's very refreshing, very light, and it works like crazy.
The comment we get all the time for the first time use of Poseidon is, "Holy cow, that scent is amazing. It just wakes me up, and I get used to it." Some people have to take a little bit longer to get used to it, but they love it after they get used to it.
do.
And so I think the scent is actually a big piece of the reason for the popularity of Poseidon, even though the science is actually a bigger reason in my mind.
Right.
So,
It's kind of a coupling of the two, because if it doesn't smell good, you won't use it. We all know the stories of things that were sold that are healthy for us, but they don't taste good. They're healthy for us, but they don't smell good. We wanted something that a person would be excited to use, but something that would also work. Okay? And it's a very delicate line to walk when you're using science and chemistry, because you can easily go over the line one way or the other and then drive people away. So I think we've really, at this point, we're close. If we haven't done it yet, we're close to having it perfected with Poseidon 3X.
I think it's perfected.
I can live with that for now.
Because the customers are buying it over and over, so the proof is in the results.
Correct.
And customers are telling us they love it. So that's the Poseidon beard oil. Obviously, if you have questions about growing a beard, give us a shout over at legendsbeard.com.